killer, Artem Lobov, and I just got to go straight into it, Artem. You're the prospect killer, but today you just on Twitter you've gone out, you've called out just about your entire division on the domestic scene. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, my coach has been saying to me forever, to join Twitter. He said I would enjoy it, and it's a good way to sort of communicate your point across. And I've never been a fan of people, padding their records or not taking fights or or whatnot. Like, so today was just one of those days where I decided to sort of call them up on this and make my point clear. But as you could see probably on Twitter, the response I got was, as usual, a million excuses not to take the fight and this and that. But, I sort of expected that. But, hey, the challenge is out there. I put it out to the guys, and everybody knows I'm going to take the fight. So the ball is in their court now.
So what's the point you're really making? Is it just that you'll fight anyone and you want these fights, or is there specific people that you're calling out on padding the records?
Well, I mean, like, obviously on Twitter I called out, Chris Fishgold. I've been trying to fight him forever. Like, for the first time ever he turned me down was Omak 10. I was 1-1 at the time. I've just fought Dave Hill, and the fight has been offered to me, Chris Fishgold. He was 4-0 at the time, and I said, yeah, I'll take it. And but obviously he didn't take it, so I ended up fighting Uche Hekwe on that show. But yeah, but from then on I was saying all the time, look, I'll fight you, and I know for fact again that for his last fight against the French guy, I know that they offered me, I know that they offered me for him to fight, but he wouldn't take it, so they had to come up with Pastor instead. So he keeps turning down fights, with me. I know he'll keep saying that he doesn't, and he keeps saying that I'm only a journeyman. But sure, if you look at his record, who else has he fought? I would be by a mile the highest ranked guy on his record. The guys that I've beaten, he hasn't even sniffed at them yet.
I mean, one thing, obviously for those of us who go to fights regularly, see you fight, anyone who sees you fight should find you've got such an entertaining style and everything. And the list of people you've beaten, I saw you beat Shea Walsh, when that comeback win was just outstanding. You dominated Dave Hill, beat him. Uche, you mentioned, now recently Martin Svensson. I mean, how is it that your record is so uneven when you're pulling out such superb displays as these on a regular basis? How come it's not a much better record and representative of your talent?
Yeah, well, there's a very easy answer to this. The reason other people have better looking records is because they haven't really fought many good guys. They'll have, let's say, 10 nobodies and then 1 or 2 good wins, so the record looks good. But if you only look at like proper fighters on somebody's record and you take away all of those, Craig Allen's or whatnot, their records are going to look very, very different. Like Chris Fishgold's record is going to be something like 1-0, 2-0 max, maybe 3-0 max. No way is it going to be 10-0. 7 of those guys are nobodies on his record, so why is he ranked so highly? He shouldn't be ranked that highly. But hey, I guess for whatever reason, people are looking at the numbers rather than the names. And I don't like that, because that's what happened to boxing. Now in boxing, unless you're 20 or 30-0, nobody's going to look at you. But the truth is, you could be 20-0 with having fought no one. So I don't think it's a good way to be. So
yeah. So, talking of boxing, I mentioned your style. Everyone's a fan of your style. Where did it come from, this development? The hands down, moving from the core. How did that develop?
Yeah, I've never really done any boxing or, in fact, any martial arts back in the day. I'm sure you know that I've done ballroom dancing in the past, so I guess I get some of the footwork from that. But as far as hands down, I've always, anytime I was talking to any like boxing coach or something, they always teach you to hold your hands up. But then I went on YouTube one day and I was Googling and I was looking at 100 best knockouts. And one thing I noticed of all the guys getting knocked out is that they all had their hands up. So they all had their hands up, and yet they're all getting knocked out left, right, and center. So I straight away could see that there is a gap there. There is lack of information, or some of these coaches are being misled or misleading their, students into believing that if you have your hands up, you're going to be safer. So I quickly realized holding your hands up isn't going to protect you necessarily. Movement and, having your hand, being able to see the shots, it is a lot more important. And also another thing is that when I hold my hands down, that gives my opponent, a clear target. They're going to go for my head because it's open, it's clear. So I know that they're going to go for my head. So I'm ready for this. But when your hands are up, you don't know what they're going to go for. They could go for the body, they could go for the head, so it's really hard to guess then.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the ballroom dancing, and everyone's always looking for an edge in this sport. In all seriousness, is there any specific dance that helps you with your footwork if anyone's looking to add a new skill to their arsenal?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I think, maybe not a specific dance, but just in general, because I think, men, males, they, in general, aren't good, they're not good on the dance floor, and which means that then they're not so good when they're moving around the ring as well. They don't feel comfortable, they're a bit clumsy and this and that, whereas I don't think I ever had that, because having come from ballroom dancing, I had good footwork already and felt very comfortable in all sorts of situations, switching stance and, spinning, whatever, I have to do, so I think that has helped me a good bit.
Okay, excellent. Well, we've been talking about people who've been avoiding you, but you have actually got a big fight coming up on Cage Warriors 65 at the Elix, 1st of March in your own city. So tell us about the fight you've got coming up against Alex Enlund and what you're expecting from that.
Yeah, very good to be back on Cage Warriors. I've fought a few times for them in the past, and always, great show. Good to be part of that. Alex Enlund, I know his name, but to be honest, I haven't had a chance to have a look at his fights. I'm sure I have seen them in the past, but I just can't really remember any now. But I will definitely, have a quick look at one or two. And I just recently found out actually he trains with Liam James, I think. But Liam said he wasn't going to say anything to me about him and wasn't going to say anything to him about me, which I wouldn't have minded, to be honest with you, if he was going to tell him about my style. I don't really care, and I never really, I never really think too much about my opponents. I don't really mind what they're going to do. I don't really care about that. I just know what I'm going to do, and you're going to see it on March 1st.
Yeah, well, obviously, it's a stacked card there, including up at the top somebody else who you fought in a kind of controversial fight, Saul Rogers, in the past. Yeah. There's plenty. Oh, you want to speak about that?
Yeah, I was going to say that's another guy that wouldn't fight me again. I offered all today. I asked him to fight me at featherweight. He said that he is a lightweight now. I said, look, if you don't want to cut weight, I'll fight you at welterweight. He still wouldn't fight me. But I think he is now part of SBG mainline, I think, in Manchester. So, to be honest, I don't really care about that anymore. But would have been nice, obviously, to get a rematch. But hey, it didn't happen, so what? It's not like I get upset, so I have to fight this guy. I want to fight all these guys because I always want to fight good guys. Because my ultimate goal is to be in the UFC. And not just to be there, I want to dominate. And I realize that for that, I need to challenge myself at the moment so that when I get there, I'm ready. And these guys, they don't do it. I don't think they are thinking this true, like even Fishgold. Look his last fight against Pastor. You know what I mean? One more round and he would have lost that fight. Or if Pastor had a bit more power, he would have finished him. Imagine that UFC, when they were in Manchester, they asked him to take a fight. He definitely would have taken a fight. And he would have had a proper featherweight fighting him. And he would have lost. And that would have been it. He would have been out of the UFC. They probably wouldn't look at him again. So why would you want that?
Talking to the UFC, obviously, and talking to SBG, you're from a gym that's obviously produced Conor McGregor, got Gunnar Nelson, you've got Chris Fields and Carl Pendred going on to the Ultimate Fighter. So, can you talk about the new gym that's opened, and how the scene is in Dublin at the moment for mixed martial arts and where you see it going in the future?
Yeah, the gym that's been open is great now. We have all the guys obviously on the team still, and we had them before, but the facilities that we had just weren't really up to the standard. and we were still having, great results. But I just think at the moment, we have everything in place there. We have a strength and conditioning area. We have a big cage. We have a boxing ring, bags area, wrestling area. We have a physio, full-time physio in the gym, full-time strength and conditioning coach. And so you have everything right there for you. And it just makes it a lot easier to get your training in. And the quality of training is a lot better, so it is great. I mean, like, I was just there, I was sparring Conor in this camp already, sparring Conor a few days, just boxing, obviously, because his knee isn't 100% yet. Been sparring Ganya there, Gunnar Nelson, a good few times as well over the last few weeks. Been sparring Chris today. Sparred Kyle, when was it, on Saturday. All these guys who are like the best in Europe, some of the best guys in the world as well in the future. They will be, for sure. And I get to spar them on a daily basis and train with them. So, I know I'm ready for anything. It's great to be part of this gym, so it's very good at the moment.
So what you're saying basically is it's time to get rid of the prospect killer and for you to be the prospect. Is this what we're saying?
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, if you have a new name for me, I'm open to offers. Like prospect killer, it served its purpose, at the time, and it was kind of catchy, and I didn't really think much of it at the time, to be honest. I was always the guy that just wanted to fight. And trust me, a lot of people have told me that, look, Artem, you've got the skills, just take a few kind of easier fights and do this and that. But, and in my head, I understand that as well. But you see, this here, my heart, it could never let me do this. I'm a fighter, and I just want to fight. And I've never, ever in my life turned down a fight. My conversations with my coach go as far as he sends me a name, and I just go back, yes. That's it. That's as far as it goes. In fact, one fight against, who was John Cullen, he never even asked me about the fight, whether I want to fight, because he already knew the answer. So I found out on Facebook when the fight was announced.